I've stayed very, very silent when it comes to the Charlie Kirk thing because I don't know Charlie Kirk. I don't respect him. I don't know anything about his movement or what he's been doing because from my estimation, this guy was a extremely moderate conservative who did nothing but go on college campuses and try and break people free of the propaganda. And obviously, there's a purpose to that. Obviously, he had a plan for that. I don't necessarily agree that that was the best thing to do because college kids are worthless. They've learned nothing. They don't want to do anything and they don't want to accomplish anything. Like I just felt as if Charlie Kirk was not addressing real issues, spending his time talking to actual Americans and actually fixing real problems. But that's my opinion. Okay? Like that's just my take. So, for me, like sitting here talking about Charlie Kirk and like pretending to be outraged by it, it didn't really sit well with me to like just sit here and grift like like Medicare. Like I don't intend on hiding my views about this. Like I didn't like Kirk, didn't respect him, didn't think what he was doing was that great. He didn't seem to understand that the political elite, especially conservatives, hate us. Okay. And that's kind of my problem with it. Like, you're not really ever going to change these people's minds. Like, it has to be like seized from them. That's kind of my my opinion on the situation at this point. So Charlie Kirk was shot and killed, murdered by someone, maybe not the guy they arrested, and everyone's been very upset by it. They've been uppity, they've been like crying and complaining. Like apparently they haven't been around liberals at all in the past 20 years because I remember, being around these people and like hearing them openly fantasize about killing conservatives, not even like prominent vocal conservatives like Charlie Kirk, but like ordinary conservative, like people they knew every day. Like, I think the average conservative greatly underestimates how much the liberal LGBT community hates them. Right? This is very par for the course for them. In fact, the only really odd thing about this situation is that the killer actually did something because usually they just kind of fantasize about it publicly, openly about killing people and how much they want to see people die and stuff like that. Like, it's very common. It's actually like very common for these people to do that. So, like, with that being said, I don't like Charlie Kirk, but I was fairly supportive of the backlash because this was, I think, kind of an eye-opening moment for a lot of people. I think a lot of people were very, very surprised at just how hostile the left is towards conservative, and that has led to more and more people realizing that just how violent, unhinged, and just desperate to kill us they actually are. That is the reality of the political left, is that they are indoctrinated by the media, by Hollywood, by celebrity culture, by the education system to hate conservatives and see us as evil, right? They don't really see us as fellow Americans who disagree with us. They want to see us killed. And this is very apparent if you spend any amount of time on college campuses, talking to girls, right? They violently hate conservatives while sleeping with them all the time. They are just complete double, like hypocritical, disgusting human beings. Like, they cannot be reasoned with. They need to be thought of and treated as the enemy, and things need to escalate going forward. And I've been saying that for a long time, is that conservatives need to wake up and start considering communists actual legitimate threats to their personal safety and livelihoods, because they absolutely are and have been for a long time. Now, what happens after Charlie Kirk comes out? Everyone's outraged. Everyone's like, learning the truth about liberals, about like commies, about like the SJWs, about like the tribe. Like everyone is like, getting on the right track. And of course, everyone has to do damage control. The GOP has to come out and start crying about how the only way we can fix this is by voting for them, which is completely ridiculous and really needs to be called out, especially considering the 2020 election and how that turned out. But like that's pretty typical for the GOP. I'm not criticizing them for this. That was not the disgusting thing that I saw at this presentation. Erica Kirk tried to come out and say that she forgave the killer. When she did that, she should have immediately been booed off the stage. She should have been kicked off. She should have been called a whore because that is exactly what she is. She is more interested in virtue signaling, protecting the rights of criminals than she is in preserving the legacy of her husband. I was never a fan of Turning Point USA. I never supported them. I never followed any of their stuff. I never liked Charlie Kirk, but like I can tell you right now that the movement under her leadership is completely doomed. She is not going to be able to continue Kirk's legacy. She is a cuck. She is a complete failure and refused to acknowledge the actual problem. And this is a gold standard, a testament to just the reality of the situation, in that women should not lead. They should not have leadership positions. They should not be allowed to speak at these events. Like what they think doesn't really matter at all, because they're going to go up there and say some wishy-washy bullshit like this instead of acknowledging that, yes, my husband was murdered by a maniac and we are officially at war. Like she wouldn't do it. Like her goal, her prerogative is to continue the status quo no matter what. Like that is what she wants as a conservative woman. Like she wants her career. I do think she is faking her misery over her husband's death, because who does this? Like she didn't care about him at all. If she's going to go out and virtue signal like that, like it is appalling to me. And it is something that we as conservatives really need to call out. It needs to be understood that we cannot tolerate this effeminate Christian virtue signaling any longer. Like this is a complete boat anchor around our movement, around everything we want to accomplish, and everything that Charlie Kirk tried to accomplish in his life. I didn't like Charlie Kirk, but he never came out and said that he would want his wife to be murdered. That like he wouldn't do that. Like no guy would do it, but women do it all the time, every day. And it is exhausting, and it needs to be called out for what it is. It is just hoes being hoes, and it is not respectable. It is not something they should be publicly acknowledging. They need to at least put up the front that they actually cared about their husbands. Okay. Erica Kirk completely dropped the ball in the worst possible way. Like she has completely failed to uphold her husband's legacy. She has failed to advance the conservative movement, and she is doing everything in her power to castrate it going forward. And it is imperative that we speak out against this nonsense and call it for what it is. It is just basic bitchy feminist nonsense, and it needs to be condemned by every single conservative in the country. Like this is not something that ever should have happened.